This is where we really start to look at some alarming problems when we talk about the existing laws and regulations for Section 3. You could mention some problems that you noticed in kindergarten through third grade, but let's assume that was a compliant IEP process. Let's assume the school notified the parents, evaluated the student with the parent's permission, shared all their information, and had a compliant IEP process. You could dip into some other regulations that were problems there, but let's assume that original third grade IEP was compliant. From here, I want to give you a little bit more information, and I want you to just think this through while I'm talking, but directly applying procedural safeguards, notification, consent, and the IEP is a legal document between the family and the school. Let me tell you a little bit more about what happens in Michigan when you have a situation where a student is moving in. Student moves to the district. The district finds out that the student has an IEP. This can happen several ways. It can go all the way from like in this case study with Matthew, where the parent shows up, registers the kiddo, and hands them the IEP. That is ideal. Or it could happen that the sending school, if it's close in the same city or same county, the sending school notifies the new school that there is an IEP. Or sometimes, unfortunately, there's a lag in time. The school records are sent to the new school, and the new school doesn't find out until the school records are sent. So there's lots of different ways when a student moves in that you can find out that a student has an IEP. In Matthew's case, it was very clear. Mom gave the new school the IEP. It sounds like, if I'm remembering correctly, before school even started. Services start as soon as the school knows the child has an IEP. Two things happen from there. The school can review the IEP, communicate with the family and the team, and decide one of two things. They can decide to take that other school's IEP, so Matthew's sending third grade IEP, and the new school can say, yep, we've got this. We're going to use this IEP, and then they have the remainder of the IEP year to go ahead and fill that out and just use the old school's IEP. If that IEP is not appropriate for the new school, needs a lot of amendments or edits, or the team decides that, hey, we need to rework this in different ways, they have 30 school days to do their own evaluations. It's not a diagnostic evaluation. It's more of teacher observations and teacher assessments. Figure out what's going to happen with that IEP, how it needs to be changed, if it needs to be changed. And then the same thing, they have 30 school days to have a new IEP. If they're not going to use the old one, they have to have a new IEP. So we don't know what happened here in Matthew's case, but I think we have a pretty good idea. We've got to start with Mrs. Winter's comments. There are a lot of legal issues with what happened in between the start of school for Matthew and the meeting the parents finally have with Mrs. Winters. So go ahead and identify those. Make sure you're using some of the legal terms that we're discussing, things like procedural safeguards, notification, consent. Make sure you identify the immediate red flags that are coming up of the existing rules and regulations that this new school are not following for Matthew.